Hi, Alexander, and thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you.
So I would like to ask you, you have compared the Industrial Revolution to the energy transition. May I ask you why you have done that?
Well, first of all, I mostly trace the comparison because it shows how interwoven energy is with our society since the Industrial Revolution, and how we used to boost our production and our wealth and such. And at the same time now, we're always building a new energy system, but at the same time we are abolishing the old one, and that's gonna give us a moment of scarcity, which we haven't known for about 200 years, and especially because of the speed we have to bring down the emissions and the time it needs to build such a new energy system gives us a very, well, like I said, a very tense period in which we have to make sure that we allocate the energy we have as most efficient as we can. And especially if you now look at, for example, the Ukraine and other things, you know how much stress the energy when it's strained is gonna give on the economy, and we see it all around us. So that's why I always go back to the Industrial Revolution, just to show how much interwoven and changed in our society energy has become.
So a shock in our system, basically, when big changes like the Ukraine war are happening, right?
Yeah, and we ourselves are now doing it, because if we if we were starting earlier than 10 years or 20 years ago, we didn't have to do that on that speed as we are now doing now, and that is giving the tension, because we want energy, we need energy in our economy for also for housing, for other leisure consumption, but at the same time, do we have the time to build up such an energy system? So that's why we're running, essentially, at this moment, I think, all around.
Absolutely. So we covered time. Let's cover space now also.
Oh, okay.
We need a lot of space to accomplish and to accommodate renewable energy sources.
Yes.
Where are we going to find this space?
Well, it's as you said, most of the time I also talk about space, because most of the people don't know that, we're used to getting our coal and gas and such from abroad and also underneath the ground. Now we're building windmill parks above the ground, and it's costing so much more energy than just the coals and gas. Why is that a problem? Well, Holland is one of the most densely populated areas in almost all the world, and it is not other for Rotterdam. And it means that we have to incorporate and find space for those energy in the surroundings, but also in our city. And at the same time, there are also all kinds of different questions for who also wants to have space and also needs to have space in the future. So that's we have a very strong regional energy strategy. We have all kinds of agreements now about where the windmills and where the sun and where the energy system is a little bit going on in this area, and also where we got our heat. But implementation is, people have to use that we are going to live in about 30 years in a whole different city with a whole different view. And just as we in the past were used for traditional windmills, we now have to get used to new other windmills. So I think it's going to be a very stressful thing to do it, but at the same time, we're used in Rotterdam as a very architectural city, just to be creative in combining all kinds of functions. And we have one chance to do it right. And I'd say, don't create an ugly city with a renewable energy system. No, we have to put effort in it to make it that it creates a very more beautiful Rotterdam.
Yes, and also taking into consideration the various ecosystems, I assume. So birds, animals, and all that.
Of course. Maybe to take one example we have in Rotterdam, we are now famous because we have a program that is only dedicated to rooftops. Because rooftops, you can have solar panels, rooftops sometimes you need for water, but now we're trying to look how we can combine those things. Mm-hmm. So, for example, also biodiversity profits from green. Green is very good also to lower the temperature, and that also increases the energy efficiency and of what the solar panel is doing. So that's sort of learning by doing it and combining those things and trying to strengthen with the energy transition all kinds of other societal goals we have in Rotterdam.
And speaking of the energy transition, what does that entail for a city?
So, well, everything that uses energy, and that is big. But if you look at emission-wise, the biggest part, of course, are the mobility you have in your city, and also the built environment. And natuurlijk the third, and that's the most by large, is of course the port, but that has its own rhythm and own problems and own paths to solutions. If you look at the rest of the city where people live, yeah, those are the mainly two that has to change. And a third, that's most of the time forgotten in the energy transition, is, well, all the emissions that have to do with embodied emissions. And then I mean, for example, food. That's one of the things we creates the most CO2 emissions beside those things. And people have to get used to, because we have renewable energy is not fit always to do the same as we used to do. We stimulate people, for example, to put more bikes, walk more, and such. So people have to get used in the energy transition also to different kind of behavior, and that's the same, for example, in the housing. District heating, for example, functions a little bit different than your own thermostat where you use some gas. So there are all kinds of, well, and I think that is the biggest change. People have to learn to behave on a different way because of, well, the sustainable energy we have to create.
Exactly, in order for the system to be sustainable. And what is Rotterdam's sustainability compass?
Okay. Well, but first of all, the analogy of a compass is chosen because we were used in the past, of course, of as a government of making plans, and then we're going to execute them. At the same time now, with the energy transition, we can have a sort of path, but at the same time, we're learning, and they're all kind of, well, it involves the world scale until the tiniest scale. They're interwoven, and they're all kind of unpredictable things that's gonna happen, and also new innovations gonna happen. So Compass helps us to aim to the goal, and our Compass consists, our sustainability consists of more than only the energy transition, because we see all kinds of course, by climate change, all kinds of big problems we have to solve in this city, and we want to, well, combine them mostly in one, in multiple perspectives, so we have the most integral solutions to most of the things. If you look, for example, heating, the things we're now looking at is that district heating only takes care of the heat, but at the same time, we also see the climate change and changing temperatures, the demand for cooling is increasing. So what does it say about the system we're now creating here? So is it not better to have a sort of with water in the ground and seasons and adjusting and also fulfilling those both roles? Because if everyone is gone to the air conditioning, as you see now, well, we have to use more sustainable energy, electricity to have that. So there are all kinds of, I think, benefits of looking at this transition, not in isolation, but also in all the other transitions that's going on in your city, and try to have the best decisions we can make collectively.
Absolutely, and this is quite a hard task. So my last question to you will be, there are some milestones that the European Commission has put and the Dutch government has accepted, 2030, 2050, etc. Do you think Rotterdam is going to make it?
Well, first of all, we've chosen ourselves also to align those to the goals. So we're striving also to 55% CO2 reduction. I'm confident because for the first time we see very seriously all layers of government are working together to test the strength and to make this transition work. And we don't have time. We should start now with projects, or else we don't have that reduction reached in 2030. And I must say, all the plans are in place. We're definitely going to a sort of execution of those measures the coming years to reduce CO2 emissions. Will there be challenges? Of course, but that's what I say, with a compass you can navigate around them and try to have different roads and still reach your goals. And as long as we stick together and work together, then I'm definitely hopeful that we'll make it.
Feeling very positive then.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alexander.
Okay. Thank you.